Let me ask you a question. How do you explain it when someone with all the right opportunities, the right qualifications, the right potential, the right support, still doesn't go for it? And how many times has that someone been you? That moment where you talk yourself out of trying, out of applying, out of stepping forward. Not because you couldn't, but because you convinced yourself you couldn't. And here's the part that keeps me up at night. Young people today are doing the same thing, only earlier and quieter and with far more at stake. This isn't a confidence problem. It's a belief problem. I want to show you what this looks like in real life. Picture two students sitting side by side in the same classroom. Same teacher, same textbook, same potential. One of them applies for the program, the scholarship, the leadership role. The other one doesn't. Not because they're not capable, not because they don't care, but because somewhere quietly they convinced themselves they wouldn't get it anyway. That's the belief gap. It's invisible, it's silent. Most of the time, we don't notice the one who didn't apply. We only notice the one who did. Psychologists have been studying this for decades. They call it self-efficacy. Your belief in your ability to handle a challenge and see it through. I call it the belief gap. That space between what you're capable of and what you give yourself permission to pursue. It's not failure that lives here, it's avoidance. And over time, that avoidance starts to shape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as somebody who tries, as somebody who applies, as somebody who belongs in the room. So when we start to talk about closing the belief gap, we're not talking about motivation. We're talking about identity. And here's why this matters. When belief drops, everything drops with it. Participation, motivation, emotional well-being. The World Health Organization reports rising anxiety among youth worldwide. And one of the quickest warning signs is low perceived ability. Anxiety is now the leading cause of illness and disability among our youth. One study even calls them the unheard third. 1 in 3 youth who are staying quiet and staying hidden and staying out of opportunities because they don't believe they're capable. This isn't a confidence issue. It's a mental health issue. It's a future of work issue. It's a human issue. Because when belief collapses, human potential sits empty. Which brings us to the question I eventually started to ask. If belief is this powerful, how do we actually start to build it? Belief doesn't just suddenly appear. Decades of research show that our sense of, I got this, I can do this, comes from a few key places. For today, I want to focus on 3 you can actually use. First is evidence. Your brain believes what you repeatedly show it. Your brain gains proof from every small win. Second, people. We borrow belief from the people around us. Belief is contagious. And third, state. A stressed mind shrinks confidence, and a steady mind expands it. These 3, your evidence, your people, and your state, quietly shape who you think you are. And when one of them collapses, the belief gap opens. I want to show you what belief can do when it shows up in the right moment. When I was 17, I was a new mom on social assistance, still in high school, trying to figure out algebra and life at the same time. I felt like I was on the outside of everything. That's when I met Anne-Marie Maloney. She was this bold, sharp-witted woman, and she had a way of seeing through all your excuses. After I graduated, she stayed in my life. One day over lunch, while I was sitting there and complaining about my life circumstances, she put her fork down. She turned to me and she said, "It doesn't matter who you were, Terri-Ann. All that matters is who you want to become. So who do you want to be?" I didn't have an answer in that moment, but something about the way that she asked made me feel like I was allowed to imagine one. A few weeks later, she invited me, a teen mom, to sit on the city's anti-poverty initiative board. I can remember walking into that meeting. I was so scared. I didn't understand the language. I didn't know the rules. About halfway through the meeting, she turned to me and she said, "Speak up. Your voice matters." No one had ever spoken to me like that before. It was the first time I felt like my perspective mattered anywhere. And the research backs this up. One moment of belief borrowed from someone else can become the first piece of evidence your brain uses to build a completely different future. Belief transfers. You're not born with belief. It's built like a muscle. One act of courage, one new attempt, one time showing up scared is a rep. The student who speaks up once, rep. The young person who asks for help, even though they might feel stupid, rep. Your brain records movement as evidence. Belief isn't built through breakthroughs, it's built through increments. And over time, those reps become courage. Another thing the research tells us is this: we learn what's possible by seeing someone else do it. It's called modeling, but really it's the "if they can do it, maybe I can too" effect. When someone who looks like you or comes from the same background as you takes a step forward, it gives your brain new evidence. Belief spreads through proximity. And here's the thing: this doesn't just suddenly stop when you graduate, it just becomes quieter and a little bit more sophisticated. Because the same voice that tells a young person, "Don't apply, you're not good enough," it grows up with us. It shows up as, "Who do you think you are? You're not ready. People like you don't do things like that." I hear that voice, even now, before writing a book, before every new project, before saying yes to this stage. Belief is something that we all need. Here's what happens when you start to close the belief gap. When one young person begins to believe in their potential, they don't just change their own trajectory, they become evidence for someone else. The friend who says, "If they can do it, maybe I can too." The mentor that says, "You belong here." The older sibling who quietly proves people like us do get chosen. Belief doesn't just transfer, it multiplies. One person's courage becomes permission for others to be brave. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of one young person in your life, and this week, help them collect one small win. Invite them into rooms they don't think that they belong in. Ask them their opinion. Tell them what you see in them that they don't yet see in themselves. And if you're the young person in this story, take one small risk that gives your brain new evidence. The belief gap is not closed by programs alone. It's closed through humans. Remember those two students from the beginning? Same potential, same opportunities, different belief? The difference between them was never ability. It was someone who showed them what was possible, someone who gave them permission to try, someone who believed in them before they ever believed in themselves. You could be that someone for a young person, for a colleague, for yourself. The belief gap is real, and so is our ability to close it. One conversation at a time, one small win at a time, one human at a time. Thank you.